All right, so UVs, it's time to dive into UVs. So we'll actually start with something fairly simple like the shirt. So to get to your UV texture editor, it's this little guy right up here. And your UV should look like a crazy spider web at the moment because we haven't even touched them or looked at them or anything yet. So when it comes to UVing, well, first let's do a planar map. I like to start with a planar map, and I'll kind of show you why. So if you start with a planar map, actually let's start with an automatic map. That used to be something, that used to be like my go-to. I would always just open it up and start with an automatic map and get something like that. So before we get any further, what I want to do is come into, select my object here, if I can get into object mode, and go to display, polygons, texture border edges. And what that's going to do is anywhere there's a border on your UV shell, it's going to, the line's going to be a little bit thicker. And you can also go to display polygons edge width, and you can control that, so we can make that quite a bit thicker. I wouldn't recommend making it too thick because it'll kind of get in the way of seeing where things actually are in your UV view. But the reason that I don't like to do this automatic map anymore is because it kind of decides where your seams are, and then you have to kind of treat it like a puzzle and put the puzzle pieces all back together, trying to figure out what goes where and things like that. So instead of starting out with an automatic map, I like to start out with a planar map. So if we go up here and do a planar map, and obviously it mapped it the wrong way, so I want to look at my polyplanar projection node, which should pop up as soon as you do a planar map. And under rotate, I want to zero out rotate Y, and that will make it to the right direction. And then I want to make sure that my projection width and height are the same values. So this one's 32 point something, so I'll just go ahead and make both of these 32, and that will ensure that it's proportional, so it's not stretched or anything. So now you'll see that all my border edges are exactly where I have them. So there's no guesswork to be done. Now I can start cutting this up the way that I want it to be cut up. Now when it comes to something like a shirt, you always want to be careful of where your seams are. But when it comes to something like a shirt, your shirt has seams, so we can do this in a very specific way, where it'll actually we'll be able to hide our seams with the actual shirt seams themselves in the texture. So if you're wearing a t-shirt, just kind of look at your t-shirt and take note at how it's cut up, or where the seams are, and that's how we can start UVing our t-shirt. So first of all, the sleeves are a separate piece of cloth whenever you're making a shirt, so we'll go ahead and cut them off. So I just double click those edges in my 3D view to see those. And then we can come over here, right click, go to Polygons, Cut UV Edges. And now you'll see that we have a thick line there showing that we have a border edge. So then I can come over here and just move that off there and there. Move that off to the side. And then look at where your shirt, the natural seams of your shirt would be. So we would have a seam over the shoulders here. I don't want to cut there. So that would be a seam in our shirt as well. So Polygons Cut UV Edges. And then we'd have a seam along the sides. And just make sure you deselect. Actually, I do want those to be cut there. So because that's where your seam would be on your shirt. So I'll go ahead and do that. Kill two birds with one stone. Polygons Cut UV Edges. So now I can grab these and kind of move them around. So I have my sleeves here, and then I'm going to have the front of my shirt and the back of my shirt. So if I just select one UV here, and then I do a control right click to shell, and I move that away. So now I clearly have the back of my shirt and the front of my shirt. So one thing you want to keep on at all times whenever you're doing UVs is your shaded view. So that's this little button right up here. So if I turn that on, you'll see that the front is red, or the front is blue, the back is red, and then the sleeves are kind of mixed. So I'll deal with the sleeves here in a minute. But the reason the back is red is because we did a planar projection, and so it kind of projected it in the back of the shirt in the wrong direction. So if I were to write text on this, it would show it backwards. And if I were to try and smooth this, so if I were to grab my Unfold UV tool and hit B, hold down B to change the size of that, and I tried to smooth this, it would kind of start to, let me go back to UV. I have these guys selected, so I need to make sure I select those. So my smooth tool, or unfold tool, if I tried to smooth this, it would start to freak out, or in this case, not really do anything for me. And that's because it's facing in the wrong direction. So I want to really quickly, just to make sure I'm kind of lagging a little bit. So I want to delete my history and modify my, or freeze my transformations. And we'll try that again. Unfold. Yeah, so it's not even really working for us. Let's see if it'll work over here. So yeah, that's not working either. Let's try this one. Alright, so this isn't working. Give me a sec. See if I can figure out what the problem is here with this. Alright, so the issue I was having was that they were frozen. So you can either go to your freeze tool and just hold down control and kind of click over everything to unfreeze it, or you can go to Polygons unpin all, and that should work as well. So so back to the issue at hand. If I try to let's see, we'll just select my front one and use our unfold tool and unfold that guy. So if I try to unfold this one, it will work out pretty well. So that I'll get a pretty decent result out of that. But if I try to unfold this guy, it's basically going to kind of freak out and do something like that. And what it's doing is trying to flip back to the correct orientation. So rather than letting the smooth tool or the unfold tool try to do that, what I'm going to do is just select all those UVs and come up here and to that little, it almost looks like a sailboat, but basically it flips your UVs. So flip that around to where it's blue. And now if I go to UV and unfold, now it should work correctly. And a lot of times there's going to be areas like this where it just, yeah, it doesn't look too bad and it's kind of weird, but I think that that's kind of going to be in the pants anyway. I think we just kind of messed up our geometry there a little bit. And again, this is also a very good opportunity to kind of find where geometry is messed up. So we probably merged those two vertices together and didn't mean to. I think for now we can probably get away with just leaving it the way it is. So there's the UVs for the front and back of the shirt. Now for the sleeves, these guys, even though I did cut them in the right spot, if I try to unfold them, it may not work. Yeah, so these, I think these may be pinned as well. So let's try to go to unpin all and try that. Yeah, so the one freaks out. This one works out okay. And that one, yeah, so they both kind of worked out okay. So all right, so, and that's pretty simple how we would UV the shirt. We can kind of rotate this into place. And I'm going to have the body and the clothing all on the same texture map. So for now, I'm going to leave them separate. Let me actually have the body and the clothing on two separate texture maps. That would make it easier if I ever decided to change to clothing. So I think I might actually do that. But for now, we'll just kind of put these guys to the side, and then we can do the pants. So the same thing with the pants. First time we look at it, it's going to look like this crazy spider web. But I'm just going to do a planar map. And again, come over here and zero out your Y rotation, and then make sure your projection width and height are the same. So we'll go with 44 and 44. We have some uniform symmetrical pants. So let's start here. Have the belt here is actually a part of the pants. So I want to, let's start by breaking that off. So I'm going to come in here and select that. Go to edge mode and select that internal edge loop deep down in there, and then also select the one by shift double clicking. So now I have both of those edge loops selected, and then I'll go to polygons, right click polygons, cut UV edges, and then I can actually, what I can do from here, just to show you a little trick, is control right click and then go to UVs, and then control right click to shell. Well, that didn't work like I thought it would. But you can also just select a UV here in your 3D view and then control right click to shell. And so see, that's telling me that maybe when I undid that, it didn't work out. Yeah, I think when I undid that, it didn't actually cut those edges. So again, this is a good opportunity to reiterate how nice it is to keep that polygon texture border edges on, and this is on a per object or per model basis. So if I make that setting on the shirt, it's not going to be on the pants as well. So so I'll do that, and then I'll go to display polygons edge width and make that a little thicker as well. So let's see. So from here it looks like, yeah, so those aren't actually cut, they're just really, really close together. So I think maybe I can come in here from this view and select that guy, and then shift select that guy, and then go to Polygons, Cut UV Edges. And then again from here I can just select a UV, and then in my texture editor I can control right click to shell, and then I can just move that off to the side. And as far as all the belt buckles and all these other objects go, I can do the same thing with them. I'm just going to select kind of a group of their UVs, and then control right click to shell, move that off to the side where the belt is, and then we can just look at the pants themselves. So again, same way with the shirt, you're going to have seams in certain areas. So for your pants, so one area is going to be the inside of the leg, so you're going to have a seam in there, so we can select that, and then Polygons Cut UV Edges, and then you're going to have a seam on the outside as well. So we'll do this one, and shift select. So I have both of those. Now, when I did that, when I shift double click to select that whole edge loop, it actually selected the edge loops on the belt as well. So one trick you can do to kind of get rid of that selection, rather than trying to control click on all those little edges in there, is just come to your, now that we have these separate, we can just come over here in our texture editor and control marquee over the belt, and then that will deselect those on the belt. And then I can just do a polygon, cut UV edges, and then I'll do the same thing I did with this shirt. I can just select one UV, control right click to shell, and do that for the top part of the pants as well. And then these guys I would want to flip around so they're oriented correctly. And then one at a time, I'll just grab my unfold tool and just kind of hit it with the unfold tool. It may freak out on me, but that's okay. And then that's really going to try and freak out on me, but kind of wondering if maybe we might want to try a different approach to that, because those are going too crazy. Yeah, okay, so in a case like this where things are just going a little wild, what I can do is I can freeze the areas that I don't want to change, and then everything else will kind of conform to that. So what I can do is just come in and I'll select these front UVs down the middle. Since we did a planar projection, and they were pretty much planar to what our projection was, so I'm going to select these guys. By that I mean they were pretty much forward facing, so they're not going to get a lot of stretching anyway. So I'll select these guys and then do a control marquee over them, and then I'll get everything, oops, maybe shift marquee over them, yeah, and then shift marquee over them, and then I get everything except for what I don't want to change. And then my unfold tool will only work on the verts or the UVs that I have selected. So now I can come in and do something like that. And this is where you're going to have to come in and sort of manually play with things. Got to do that in UV view. So there used to be a time where, you know, doing UVs was basically one UV at a time. The tools in Maya have gotten a lot better, so doing UVs isn't as frustrating as it used to be. So what I'll do now is same thing I did before, but I'm going to select my outside UVs here. And then again, shift, select. I got some guys there that I don't want. And then shift select, and that basically inverts your selection. And then we can try that again. So with the exception of that, that worked pretty well. And then again, sometimes you just have to go in manually and move things around. And this is kind of in an area that's really not going to be seen that much, so I'm not too concerned about it. And then I can try the same thing for this guy. So actually, let's try something slightly different. Let's go to edge mode and then control right click to UV. And then I'm going to control to deselect all those UVs and all those guys wherever they're attached. And let's try just smoothing. Yeah, so that didn't quite work the way I thought it would. But then I can go in, and again, you can select things from your 3D view too, so I can come in from my 3D view and kind of select all those UVs. I'll deselect those guys. And deselect those guys, and then move them away. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll just select those outside UVs. Make sure we get them all. And then shift select to invert that selection. And then we'll just try smoothing those. So that works pretty well for the pants. And this looks like these guys got a little messed up, so let's go ahead and fix that. And make sure it's scaled to about the same. Alright, so let's jump over to the belt. Now, the belt's going to be interesting because we want to hide. We don't want to be able to see a seam. Now, I should have an edge loop that's actually hidden by the belt buckle. And if I just select an edge there, I'm going to see that it is this edge loop here. So I can select that and then do a Polygon Cut UV Edges. And this might freak out on us, but we'll give it a shot. Just trying unfold. And that worked pretty good. So we can scale that up. Now if I really want to be meticulous about this at this point, which may be something I want to do for the belt, because that's something that's going to be kind of difficult to make to texture if I texture that in Photoshop. So even despite it, you know, the possibility of it stretching, what I want to do here is just double click one of those edges, and then I'll control go to UV, and then of course deselect everything that I don't want. So in this case I don't want these bottom guys. Or these guys. I just want that top edge. And then I can hit this button right up here, which is align to the top. So if I hit that, it'll straighten out. Deselect that guy, try that again, it'll straighten out. And then, so I can select edge loops in UV mode just by clicking and then shift clicking the next one next to it, and I can just do like that. And you got to make sure you have the right one though. And that's always going to happen just because and then I can do the same for these guys. I'll select those and then align them to the right. And what I can do at this point is just hit my G key, and that will repeat the last action. And this makes it a lot easier to texture in Photoshop because everything's nice and straight. You know, it's a little bit more, takes a little bit more effort, but it straightens everything out really nice. And if you are texturing in something like Photoshop, it makes that a lot easier. And then I have all these guys. I'm not too concerned about how I want them to lay out. I can probably, it would probably make my life easier if I did one and just reduplicated it. But in the case of this, we'll try and do them all at once. So I'm going to go and just select those edges. On all of them. Just got to make sure you don't accidentally select something you don't want. I do that all the time. And in a case like this, I just find it a lot easier to do it in 3D view than trying to pick it out in your UVs. So if we did that right, we can go to Polygons, Cut UV Edges, and then one at a time we'll grab these guys. Let's move them away a little bit, but one at a time we'll grab these guys and just do a unfold. And it doesn't look pretty, but that's okay. These aren't a major design element, and sometimes it will come out different sizes when you use that UV unfold UV tool. Not sure why that is, but once we have that, we can just grab them, sort of line them up nicely. Shell, and then we can put those, we can try to fit those in here somewhere when we get everything together, but those are done for now. And then this little buckle part is going to be pretty easy as well. Basically it's got a back to it, so basically select those guys. I want to cut them, and if I can get to a point where I can see it, I can probably just go ahead and select these back faces and delete them since they're not visible. And I didn't actually cut those, or did I? No, I don't think I did. So reselect those guys on the corner. Polygons cut. Unfold. So it looks like we missed one little face right there, and we missed a edge. So we can actually just delete it in there and then cut it right in there. And then we'll move this over here with the belt loops. And then this guy we'll do the same thing with. So sometimes it's easier, this is combined, I could separate it, but since it's separate objects, what I'm going to do is just select one of those faces and do a shift. I'm not sure what that is, arrow key that's to the left of your question mark, and that's basically grow selection. And then I can move that back on the face level and have a little bit more room to look at it. So again, I can delete these. And then I'll basically want this to unfold kind of like a cube. So I can just select actually let's do it on the other side. Polygons Cut UV Edges, and then hit that with the unfold tool. And then just remember to move that back, so we can move that back on the vertex level or on the face level. To where it was before. Alright, so our pants and shirt are UV'd. So now what I want to do is just make sure that they are in the same UV space together, so I can select them both. And usually what I like to do, we can check to make sure they all have the same sort of texel density. You can turn on our grid here, and then if we hit 6 on our keyboard, should work. Instead, it doesn't work, so we'll scratch that for now. If it works on the pants. No, I must be having some graphic issues. Or we could just apply a checker pattern, but I think these are pretty much, they look about the same size as what they are in my 3D view, so I think we're pretty good. So usually what I'll do at this point is go to UV, select all of these guys, scale them down together, and then I want to try to get them to all fit in the same UV space. Something like the belt I can probably move to the side for now. And you can go as far as reorienting them, you know, flipping them upside down to try and get them to fit better. That's up to you. I kind of, if I can get them to fit okay in their correct orientation, that's usually what I'll try to go for. And then like the sleeves we can put in here. Somewhere like that. The belt, maybe rotate it on its side, fit it in there. And then these guys, throw them in there. And this gives me some extra space. You know, if I wanted to give him like extra accessories, like little bags hanging off of his clothing or something like that, I can fill that with all those extra accessories. But this is basically what we're shooting for here, as far as UVs. You want to basically have as little empty space as possible, and that way that ensures you the best texture resolution. I could definitely go in here and tweak this and try to get it looking better, but I think for something like this, that's fine. And like I said, I always have room if I want to give him extra little things. You know, if I want to give him a bracelet or something like that, I'll have a little bit of extra room to kind of put that in there. But that's basically UVing the clothing, and next we'll jump over to UVing the body. And now these are separate objects. Basically, I would just add the same shader to both of them, or I could combine them together. That's up to you, whatever you want to do. Either one of those will work. But basically now we have one texture map where we can have both our belt, pants, and shirt on.